Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Debt Nation, where we are busy putting death out of business. And I've got a really good episode here with Peaceful Mind Institute director, Mr. Hash, and we will go over to him in 1 second. But let's first thank our sponsors. That's Thrivous. You know the deal. $5 all the way up to $160 worth of free Thrivous, fantastic. Also, David Kelly at I Am Transhuman, thanks for sponsoring this episode. Mr. Hashveer Singh, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, and you?
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm doing well. I have a peaceful mind, and thanks to your big director. He has given me a lot of resources and a lot of time and energy, and he's fantastic. And I'm really excited about Peaceful Mind, especially in these times, with all the COVID and all the stress and the lockups and everything like that. People seem to be a little bit stressed. So Peaceful Mind is a great institute and a great help towards some of the mental health problems that we see facing the world. But before I do say any more, who are you and what is Peaceful Mind?
Okay, great. Firstly, just thanks to you, Steele, and to Debt Nation for allowing us this opportunity. I think, Mr. Nabeed, who you call as the world's greatest psychologist, did a show not too long ago.
Yeah, the world's most influential psychologist. That was out of a magazine in there. The quote from a magazine, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool, because it's the Peaceful Mind Institute is growing in size. It's big.
That's it. And I was fortunate enough to join the organization early this year, even before this COVID-19 lockdown. So late January, I joined as a director for Peaceful Mind Foundation, and I am currently in South Africa, based in South Africa. But I'm now leading the fight against COVID for the Peaceful Mind Foundation. So we're a growing organization. We've been registered in more than 36 countries, and it's growing fast. We're part of the United Nations Global Compact. We registered with the United Nations Global Compact, and we're expanding. And it just so happened I joined before coronavirus took the world by storm. Just to build on to what Nabeed was talking about on your program, the Peaceful Mind Foundation is actually assisting individuals, people, to deal with their stress, their anxiety, their OCD problems. And in this time, more than ever, it's become more important for us to take care of our mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not wrong there. There's a lot of different mental issues that we have to deal with, he's told us about a few of those and specifics on how to handle some issues within there. But yes, it's not good that, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? It's really good that you're growing and that you're having an influence. It's not fun that we have to deal with mental health issues. We wish people didn't have mental health problems, but people have to have somewhere to work out their mental health issues and to be educated and have information resources on different mental health issues. And in that respect, we are very, very grateful, and we're happy that the Peaceful Mind Foundation is growing and that it is tethered to an organization like the United Nations, so it gives it legitimacy and the extra boost that it needs to actually have that positive impact on the world.
Yes, no, definitely. We've seen the benefit actually running these modules and these trainings in South Africa, in fact. And South Africa currently, we're sitting with, if I could just update on a coronavirus, stage, we're sitting with about 4,000 cases right now. Of the 4,000, I like to always mention this, is that we have 1,473 people who have recovered, and unfortunately we have 75 deaths. So it is spreading. We've been in lockdown since the 26th of March, and nationwide lockdown. And I do think, from a South African point of view, we have reacted well to the coronavirus pandemic. The reason why is we had to implement these lockdowns is obviously to give us time to react, to boost our medical facilities and to assist, in curbing that spread.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go more into your role in because obviously every death is a tragedy, but when there's a pandemic, the deaths are amplified. The deaths are amplified because resources are taken away and used to treat current COVID victims, and then that people that would normally visit a hospital are now left out of those resource pools, and that's what expands the deaths. And every one of those 75 deaths has an impact on different people. A minimum one extra person, but an untold number of people. It could be extended family and friends, etc. So this is a bad, especially when it happens all at the same time. This is a bad ripple effect throughout society. So how is Peaceful Mind assisting in this way?
So, we just to also mention is that in South Africa, we have specific problems related to poverty, which adds another factor into this coronavirus pandemic. And the reason why we're dealing with these mental health issues is people don't know when their next paycheck is going to come from. There's this financial burden that's now being placed onto someone, on top of being in a house, enclosed, locked down, not being able to interact. And those are some of the problems that are building amongst people and inside people. And that's what's causing this anxiety, this fear. And we've got other elements to deal with, as a developing country. And Peaceful Mind is intersecting and assisting individuals with getting past that barrier, and also creating self-awareness. Like you mentioned in your previous program, it's a time for self-reflection, but it's also a time to not stop the communication channels with family, friends, and use technology that's available to us to interact, to maintain that communication channel, so that we all we maintain our sanity. And we are, we're driving this in South Africa quite hard. It's more about now self-awareness, self-reflection, and use this period to actually reskill yourself, and come out stronger on the other end.
Yeah, and this is a good tip. Use your time wisely. Always use your time wisely, but in a time when you're literally confined to your own home, this is a good time to utilize time as a resource in order to upskill and work your way out of there. Watching TV is okay, but it might be a little bit detrimental to your long-term job prospects, especially if people are facing economic uncertainty, which leads to financial uncertainty, and then that slows the economy, which means that everybody is feeling a little bit insecure. Insecurity.
And just to add on to that is obviously the spread of fake news. And we've actually made it illegal now to spread fake news. There's already been 2 court cases where people have been actually taken to court. The trials are going to happen, and so fake news is also a build onto these problems. I found myself, while I was waiting for this interview to happen, I was just flicking through to CNN, to check what's going on, and that countdown on the side, and every day it's increasing. Every day we have more and more cases, it is very detrimental if you watch those numbers consistently, and you don't focus on also the good that's happening in your life, and the time that you have available for you right now, and use it, like you said as well, use it wisely. Use this time wisely.
Yeah, absolutely. Coronavirus is it's bad. It is scary. But remember, there are a lot of fearmongers out there who will try and manipulate people's minds in order to drum up that fear for their own personal gain. So people have to be aware of that. And you mentioned fake news. Fake news. Yeah, that's a big one. It's hard with fake news as a talking point. It's hard with fake news because if you're just sharing something that you think might be real, it's kind of hard to do your own fact checking, as an organizational stance. But it is hard, and that is one of the big problems with social media, is that this stuff can be very, very viral. So I'd be very interesting to see. It'd be very interesting to see how that court case turns out with those two cases that you mentioned. What they think is fake news, but there is definitely a lot of fear news, fear pornography, as they say, fear that people can ingest, and that can do very harmful things to the mind. Fear, and it's put out by people who want to use and utilize and weaponize fear in order to control people's minds and take control of people's minds and access resources from them. These are psychopathic type characters, or institutional type characters, such as big news conglomerates who overemphasize and overstate things in order to make money and generate clicks and leads. And with the algorithms embedded into social media, you can get pulled in to a ripple effect, into a rhythm of ingesting bad food, bad intellectual food.
Yes.
So it's all fear. Everything's fear, and that's very bad for the mind, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's where we're going to see probably massive changes coming out of this, pandemic. And, for us to sort of change things in the world, actually, because we were heading into, like you say, algorithms, clicks, views, and I think the new normal, or the normal that we know or knew last year, 2019, is not going to be the new normal anymore. So it's about us managing that, managing the fear out there. We know we're all fearful. I mean, I as well, I have businesses that are not operating currently because we're under lockdown. We've got employees that are part of it as well, who, we have to take care of them. They are fearful for their jobs. They are fearful for their next income. They are fearful for their next plate of food. They just don't know. You have also the buildup of fake news. Here, we had people sending out numbers to go and collect free food parcels. I mean, and that just creates this unhealthy environment around. And we started to implement some of the processes and procedures that the Peaceful Mind Foundation talks about within our own organizations before actually talking to other people and spreading the word about it. And yeah, we definitely managed to contain that fear, but we'll always be fearful. I think it's about managing it to a certain point, and we always have that threshold as well. So once we go beyond that threshold, it could turn into other disorders. That we don't want to get to that point, actually. So it's about maintaining you underneath your threshold.
Because you've hit on something very important here, I think, and that psychology is a great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you're a king, it doesn't matter if you're a peasant, it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter if you're a mum or a dad or a child. Mental health is everybody's problem. It's everybody's own mind. It's a great equalizer, and it doesn't matter how much money you have or how little money you have. Mental health is about everybody equally.
Yeah, and you see it now even in schools more than ever. Something that I wouldn't have even, talked about 3-4 years ago, where there's more pressure on kids right now. And now to add on to this, the closure of schools, and I'm not sure if Australia is still also, the schools are closed, and the universities are closed. So, but on this side, we have schools that are closed, universities that are closed. We have people in their honors years that are trying to, qualify and get a job. You have people sort of, trying to move from, primary schools to secondary schools, or middle schools to secondary schools this year, and it's a very unhealthy situation amongst the youth currently, and it's something that we really need to focus on, because that's the future of the countries. It's the future of the world.
Yeah, it really is. And, children are the biggest investment a country makes in terms of resource distribution, or it should be at least. And I think mental health, it's given some sort of, it's given some resources in some countries, but I think there's never been enough emphasis on mental health in a general sense. There's a lot of emphasis on education. There's a growing emphasis and growing recognition that healthcare in general for teeth and hair and looking after yourself in terms of eating well and the properties of eating, but mental health is something that's really starting to be talked about, but it's not yet funded enough, is it?
Yeah. I mean, we see it a lot on this side, and the importance of it is not really put across to people, and you sometimes only listen to it or look at it when it's too late, and once we've gone beyond those thresholds, once people become or get an accelerated development towards one of these anxiety disorders or OCD or PTSD and all of those that I've just spoken about as well, just adds on to this lockdown. And we see it now as well, where people are getting frustrated. Right now, we can't even take our dogs out for a walk, or even walk on the street. Being confined to spaces, and that's where communication becomes very important. Communication with families and friends, your families and friends, your even your neighbors, and through technology, using these your devices to actually keep that sanity in this period, and come out on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. What else? What else does Peaceful Mind do? What else does Peaceful Mind? What else are you involved in with as a director at Peaceful Mind?
So we are currently rolling out awareness programs. We are obviously taking advantage of the webinar space to try and introduce these concepts to people, and also further these concepts, with individuals, corporates, and we've also sort of, when this happened, we received numerous emails on questions on how to deal with, how to deal with your sanity in this time, how to deal with, if you do have coronavirus and you're also stuck at home and you're recovering, how to deal with those situations. So we've actually put on our website, which is www.peacefulmind.org. We've put out a Q&A, sort of the main questions that we kept on being asked, consistently, and the answers to that. So yeah, we're focusing right now on awareness, webinars, Q&As, and we're always available for discussion. So reach out to us if there is a need. We're always available to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have lots of great initiatives: the Global Youth Mental Health Forum, Global Academy of Psychological Sciences, Global Mind Foundation Fellowship, Global Chamber of Business. Lots of different things going on there at the Peaceful Mind Foundation. What's one of the most exciting enterprises? What's the initiatives that you enjoy at Peaceful Mind?
It's definitely the rollout of the awareness, and I'm speaking pre coronavirus lockdown situations where we get to interact with masses of people. We get to roll out our awareness programs to them, interact with people, and what you realize is, you know, especially in a country like South Africa, you realize that the problems are quite similar amongst different areas, you know, and it does take us, you know, just to communicate with people and make people aware. There's a lot of people that don't recognize mental health, like you mentioned earlier, that don't place this importance on mental health. And we've seen that, yeah, you know, in this country alone, that there's people that shoot it down from the start. It's not acceptable for you to have a mental health issue or problem or diagnosis. Some people feel that you're just lazy, and you don't have the commitment that other people have. But it's where that mental health problem comes in, and that's what really I enjoy about it, the rolling out of our awareness programs, especially amongst the youth. You know, we deal in rural areas where we're rolling out programs in rural areas, and yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah,
what
I
I
think
really.
I think rolling it out in rural areas is really important. Although the rural population has gone down over history, and in developing countries especially, it is going down. There are less and less people in rural areas. They get less and less resources as a result, because resources flow to the cities. You saw this in the Industrial Revolution in the United Kingdom or in England, you know, through industrialization. And so the natural effect is this, what demographic institutions or demographers call the urban transition. And so the urban transition means everybody from rural areas moves to the urban population, and the urban population gets more resources. And, you know, I know of other psychology institutes and things, but they're all set up for urban populations and urban centers. And I'm very happy to hear that rural populations are not being left out of Peaceful Mind, and that there are some sort of center focus, because it's really rural populations that need this the most. They're left out of opportunities the most. They generate usually one or two products, and they're usually an agricultural product, or maybe a tourism product or something else, and they don't have that access to a industrial money or high technology or something else that might enhance their income in a big way. And you know, in India, there's lots and lots of rural farmers, especially in India, that really could would really benefit from Peace of Mind Foundation, because there's a lot of suicides in India, 10 or 20,000 farmers a month, I think. Some very high number from mental health issues, mainly because of economic problems. Rural populations being targeted for mental health enhancement, I find I'm very enthusiastic about that, because they need the resources.
And that's it. And I'm glad you mentioned those two areas, agriculture and tourism. So now add on the lockdown. Now, what does it create? You don't have your business running. You can't make ends meet. You can't afford your next meal. So these are all aspects that are building now, into mental health issues. I get calls every day, trying to ask, how do we make ends meet? What sort of reliefs are there from the government currently? What sort of tax reliefs are there? Where can we get funding from? Where can we get money from? A bridge finance, facility for now. And that's when fake news sort of counteracts these the actual truth, because you have people who have hope that they will receive food parcels, but it was a fake news, letter that went out, and they go. This literally happened where in South Africa, where people stood in a line waiting at a spot. Masses of people stood waiting, at a spot to collect their food, and it was a fake sort of a parcel giveaway, and then everyone gets excited to try and go and get their meal, and then there's nothing, and then they go home and empty-handed again. So the rural areas is where we're focusing in South Africa specifically because of those reasons. And obviously coronavirus and the lockdown has now compounded the situation. And we will continue focusing in those areas. We're now rolling out communication channels to them, devices that will sort of assist, in these areas so that they can communicate with people in metros, in cities, with people that are able to give their time towards sort of, empowering them.
Absolutely. That's really, really fantastic to hear. And I'm very sad to hear about the fake news story about all these poor people waiting in line. It's terrible. And I don't understand what type of game somebody is trying to play, or with that sort of terrible fake news. But you guys are doing great work. Peaceful Mind is doing great work, and I know that the conversation is very different now than it would have been a few months ago. The COVID-19 thing. I guess you got a lot more busy, trying to deal with this sad scenario. But the reason that I talk to Peaceful Mind, and the reason that I enjoy Peaceful Mind, and the reason I promote Peaceful Mind, and all of that is because you guys are saving lives, you're saving livelihoods, and you're promoting mental health to people, and you're holding families together, and you're holding people, onto the world, because there are better times, and if everybody you can pull through these sorts of bad scenarios, there's a brighter future on the other side. So we look forward to helping as many people as we can to get to that brighter future. And then when you get through that, there are more issues. Back to what your director was talking about with all of the different OCD and everything else, which seems minor, but it's not minor in the context. These negatively impact people's lives, and it weighs down on a country's productive capacity, their human capital, and their health span, their lifespan, and their ability to live a happy, healthy life. In general, and that's something that we can do. That's something a Peaceful Mind can help with.
Absolutely, and I just must add on to that, onto what you're saying, is the onus is with the individual. Governments can recommend restrictions, recommend best practices, but the onus for us curbing this spread is on an individual basis. So if you are taking the risk and going out without the proper precautions, or not heeding the advice of government, that's what we're avoiding. And we especially in these situations where one person can spread it through to more than 5 people. I mean, and then it's just exponential growth from that. I think that's where we sort of also it's more of an awareness, and again, I'm going to say this: it's the onus on each and every individual, no matter where you are in the world. It's each individual that needs to take those precautions. And who knows? We is this the new normal where we live in uncertainty going forward? We don't know when's the next thing that's going to hit, and are we going to go back to what 2019 was ever? Is it a constant sort of living in this uncertainty? Although obviously vaccines will be available probably next year, and there's a lot of work is going on with scientists and the medical councils of various different countries, but I think we have to admit that there's probably going to be a change in each and every one of our behaviors going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Really fascinating discussion there. Is there anything else you wanted to tell us about Peaceful Mind? Anything you wanted to mention? Upcoming events or grow? I mean, if you're right, I mean, you're telling me if this is this the new normal? And just by asking that question, saying is this the new normal? We're living in a life of uncertainty. That in itself has negative mental health implications because uncertainty breeds mental instability because people live where creatures that are defined by ideas of and standards of set certainty, and talking about ripping out people's employment, ripping out their financial assistance, and changing the way they think about lives and their families and everything. That's scary to me. Fear breeds mental problems. So Peaceful Mind, whether or not what you're saying is true in itself, is justifying its own existence, and why this is going to be a huge boon to everybody that can partake in it.
Definitely. I think we obviously, as Peaceful Mind, we're going to be rolling out more webinars in the near future. That's the most effective way now to get us all talking from different countries, different demographics, learning from one another. I think that's where our platform is currently. We've got people in India and the UAE, in Canada. So, it's just learning from one another and going forward. We're going to be rolling out a lot more awareness programs, a lot more seminars. But we're also open to suggestions on how we can improve. So if there's anyone that wants to put forward a suggestion, I mean, please feel free. Visit the website. You'll see our initiatives on there. Thanks for this opportunity, to convey these messages.
No, absolutely my pleasure, and thank you very much for coming on the show. And Mr. Hash, Peaceful Mind Foundation, an organization registered with the United Nations Global Compact based in New Delhi, India. The foundation is more than 36 countries across the world, embarking its vision to make psychology a household term, peace, and well-being and culture. I totally agree with this vision, and I think it's come at the right time, the right place. I'm glad to know you, sir. Glad to know everyone at this foundation, at this organization. And, I wish you all the best. And we will stay very closely connected with you guys going forward because we think that this is a very, very important enterprise.
Great. Thanks so much, Steele. And thanks again to Det Nation.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hash. That's Mr. Hash. I'm Steele Archer. This is Det Nation. And we're talking about Peaceful Mind Foundation. You can go to peacefulmind.org. Check it out. Make sure you check that out, peacefulmind.org. And, it's very good to have a peaceful mind in these troubling times.
Great.